Hello and welcome back to my channel. Troy here, and today we will be designing some sounds using the Arturia Microfreak. The style of patches/presets we will be designing is Subtractive Synthesis. Taking exercises from Chapter 4 of the book Creating Sounds from Scratch, this book lays a solid foundation for how sounds are thought about and the tools used to produce them. The book asks us to make 6 patches, and the ones I chose are a mellow and smooth lead, a sharp and edgy lead, a rich and thick pad, a smooth and airy pad, an edgy and deep bass, and a smooth and light bass. An oversimplified version of subtractive synthesis involves a sound generator, an oscillator, that is then modulated using a filter, voltage-controlled filter, and an amplifier envelope. The sub in subtractive synthesis means to take away, and so we use a filter to take away unwanted sounds and sculpt it as well with the amp envelope. Subtractive synthesis, laid out by the book, goes as such. Subtractive synthesis is based on fundamental waveforms: sine waves, triangle waves, pulse waves, sawtooth waves, and noise waves. And specifically, the traditional waveforms are a triangle wave, a pulse wave, and a sawtooth wave. Its character tends towards simplicity due to these waveforms. The waveforms have simple harmonics, so sculpting them is the main path for shaping the sound. The sounds are not reproduced as in sample-based synthesis. Instead, they are generated by an oscillator. The waveform sets the stage for the smooth versus edgy nature. Sine, triangle, pulse, saw, noise is the gradient from smooth to edgy, and a low-pass filter will smooth the sound, and the resonance will sharpen a portion of it back up. The amplifier envelope will also naturally smooth it out with a medium to long attack/release, and to sharpen the sound, use a short duration of either. Because these waveforms are generally of medium to high thickness, their transparency is low. The more harmonics a waveform has, the thicker it will be. This should be used with caution, as they can overpower a mix due to their medium to heavy weight. But when balanced in the mix, they can provide a good punch, especially in the mid to low register. A little disclaimer: typical subtractive synthesis requires 2 designated oscillators, and the Arturia Microfreak itself does not have 2 designated oscillators. Many of the engines have possibilities that mimic this with a sub-oscillator or a detuning of the main oscillator, but to achieve, say, a sawtooth wave in oscillator 1 and square wave in oscillator 2, that is rather tricky. When making a patch on the Arturia Microfreak, you go to one of the init presets, which stands for initialize, which is the base state of the Microfreak, and then you save the patch. You can also save over a pre-existing patch, but then you will lose it for your new one. For leads, I made 2 leads, a mellow and smooth and a sharp and edgy. There are other options, of course. These are just the ones that I chose. To make a mellow and smooth lead, you use 1 oscillator, a saw or triangle. The amp envelope has a attack of short to medium. Decay is full. This also means non-existent. Sustain is full, and then release is short to medium short. Whenever the sustain is at full, The decay is not a step or not a phase in this amplitude envelope because there's no volume that we are reducing to. We are staying at full volume. This uses a 4-pole low-pass filter, which means it is 24 decibel attenuation with a low cutoff frequency. If there is any resonance, there is very little, and the filter's cutoff frequency is mapped to an envelope with a short attack. It is monophonic. There is a short glide/portamento. Mellow and smooth lead. The mellow and smooth lead I made uses the basic waves oscillator with the morph set to saw wave, which is at 50%. The symmetry is all the way down, which it says as 50. And when it is at this 50, that means the morphing between the phases of the waves has no effect. And the sub oscillator I set to 0. The amp envelope, I set the attack to about 130 milliseconds, the decay at 0, sustain at full, and the release at about 1.1 seconds. The filter, the Microfreak has a 2-pole filter. I set it to a low-pass filter at around 880 hertz, and the resonance around 74%. It's monophonic. In the mod matrix, I connected the press to the pitch with about a 10.4 positive direction, and I also routed a cycling envelope set on the envelope mode to the cutoff at about 49.4%. When the cycling envelope is in envelope mode, that means it functions like another standard envelope. The rise is 0, the fall is around 300 milliseconds, hold is at 0, and the amount is 100%. Sharp and edgy lead. This uses 2 oscillators, oscillator 1 with a pulse wave, and oscillator 2 a saw or pulse. The amp envelope has a short attack, full decay, full sustain, and a short to medium short release. It uses a 2-pole low pass filter, which means there's 12 decibels of attenuation per octave with a cutoff between 4,000 to 5,000 hertz. Adding resonance on oscillator 1 adds to the richness of this sound, and the cutoff frequency is mapped to an envelope with a decay of around 1800 milliseconds. It is monophonic and has a short portamento attached to it. Sharp and edgy lead. For the sharp and edgy lead, I used the virtual analog engine, the detune set to about 48, which sets the detune amount between the 2 waves, the shape at about 26.7, which morphs through a variable square wave, and the wave set to 44.5, which morphs through a variable saw wave. The amp envelope has a quick attack at 30 milliseconds, decay is at 0, sustain is at full, and the release is about 1.3 seconds. The filter is a low-pass filter set around 4.6 kilohertz. The resonance around 48%. It is monophonic, and then there are 4 extra routings. The LFO to shape at around 5.3%, and the LFO to wave at a negative 6.2. The LFO itself is set to a whole note, which is time synced, and then the wave is a sine wave. The press is set to detune at a negative 3.1%, and the cycling envelope on envelope mode is set to the cutoff at 100%. And its steps are: the rise is 1 millisecond, the fall is 1.5 seconds, hold is 0, and the amount is 100%. For the pads, I chose rich and thick and smooth and airy. A rich and thick pad uses two oscillators, oscillator 1 with a pulse width, and oscillator 2 with a saw or pulse wave slightly detuned. The amp envelope has an attack of medium long, decay at 0, sustain at full, and release at medium to long. The filter is a 2-pole low-pass filter around 2 kilohertz. The resonance is just a little bit, and it is polyphonic. For my rich and thick pad, I used the virtual analog oscillator with the detune set to 36, the shape set to 38, and the waves set to about 43.8. The amp envelope has the attack set at 54 milliseconds, decay set at 4.8 seconds, the sustain around 57%, and the release at 4.8 seconds. The filter is a low-pass filter set to about 1.7 kilohertz with the resonance around 39%. It is in paraphonic mode. I have 3 routings. The LFO set to wave at a negative 28.8 with the time synced to eighth notes, and the wave is set to smooth random. The envelope is also connected to the cutoff at 27.8%, and the cycling envelope is connected to the timbre, which is the shape function, at 21%. Its steps are a rise of 300. The cycling envelope is set in run and connected to the timbre, which is known as shape on the virtual analog, at 21%. The rise is 300 milliseconds, the fall is 3 seconds, the hold is 9 milliseconds, and the amount is 100%. The smooth and airy pad uses 2 oscillators, oscillator 1 as a sine wave, and oscillator 2 as a triangle wave, slightly detuned as well. The amp envelope has an attack from medium to long, decay at 0, sustain at full, and the release at medium to long. The filter is a 2-pole low-pass filter around 8 to 9 kilohertz, and this is just to take the edge off of this sound, and the resonance is just a little bit. The filter envelope has just the attack and release stage. The attack is medium long, and the release is medium short. It is polyphonic, and you add a reverb, delay, and a little bit of chorus to smooth it out, as are your preferences. For the smooth and airy pad, I'm using the bass oscillator that uses a sine and a cosine oscillator. The sine oscillator is fed into a balanced modulator, and the resulting wave is mixed with the modulated cosine oscillator. The saturate is set to 53.3, and that is the saturation of the cosine oscillator. The fold is set to 18, and this is a 2-stage asymmetric fold, and the noise is set to 10.8. The amp envelope is set to an attack of 5.3, decay of 0, sustain of full, and release at 11.6. The filter is a low-pass filter set to around 8.8 kHz, and the resonance is 49%. It's set to paraphonic mode, and there are 5 routings that I added for this patch. The envelope is connected to noise at 35.9%. The LFO is to saturate at 16.7, and the LFO is set to fold at negative 11.3. It is time synced at 1/16, which is a 16th note, and the wave is a sine wave. The press is to pitch at negative 7.7, and the cycling envelope in envelope form is set to the cutoff at 60.3. The rise of the cycling envelope is 925 milliseconds. The fall is 1 second. The hold is 0, and the amount is 100%. The basses I chose are deep and edgy and smooth and light. For a deep and edgy oscillator, I use a sawtooth wave. The amp envelope has an attack that is short, decay that is 0, sustain that is full, and release that is a medium length. The filter is a 2-pole low-pass filter around 800 Hz with some resonance. And it is monophonic, as most bass instruments / bass patches are. The deep and edgy bass I created with the basic waves oscillator, with oscillator 1 set to the saw wave, which is the wave at 50, the symmetry at 50, which is all the way down, and the sub oscillator at around 72. The amp envelope has an attack of 19 milliseconds, decay of 1.6, also 0 because decay and release are connected on the Microfreak, the sustain at full, and the release at 1.8 seconds. The amp envelope has an attack of 19 milliseconds, a decay of 0, a sustain of full, and the release at 1.8 seconds. The filter is a low-pass filter set to around 820 Hz with the resonance at 47. It is monophonic, and there are 2 extra routings. LFO to the sub-oscillator at 50.4% with the wave set to sine, and it is time synced to a whole note, 4/1. The cycling envelope is set to the cutoff at 40%, with the rise being 5.5 seconds, fall being 5 seconds, hold being 0, and the amount at 100%. The smooth and light bass uses 2 oscillators, oscillator 1 as a sine wave and oscillator 2 as a triangle wave. The amp envelope has an attack that is short, decay that is 0, sustain that is full, and release that is medium to long. The filter, they want 2 filters, a 2-pole low-pass filter at 2000 kHz, and a 2-pole high-pass filter at around 80 Hz. And then you add resonance to boost that low to middle register. And if you have an advanced bandpass filter with a lot of controls, you could use that as well. And it is monophonic. For the smooth and light bass, I used the Superwave oscillator with oscillator 1 set to the triangle wave, and I detuned it by around 30.6, and the amplitude of the detuned wave around 14. The amp envelope is 10 milliseconds for the attack, the decay at 0, sustain at full, and the release at 2 seconds. The filter is a low-pass filter set around 960 Hz, with the resonance around 43%. It's monophonic, and there are 3 extra routings. The LFO is set to the detune amount at 12.5%, which is time synced to the whole note 4/1 with a saw wave. The press set to the detune amount at 56.6, and the press is also set to the cutoff at 76.7. Here are some of my takeaways from working through Chapter 4. First off, it was a lot of fun. I enjoy designing sounds from scratch, and so this was fun to have a little template on how to push forward some of your ideas in the subtractive synthesis style. It was easy to follow, and it had room for creativity. I did depart a little bit from the pure template to have a little bit more fun, which is totally fine. Now, I do wish some of the terms were defined in a more concrete fashion. I had to consult a few other books to specifically find what they meant by transparency and weight and how they were different from each other. But other than that, it was very clearly laid out, and I enjoyed the process. Here is the song I made using these patches called Etne, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video, and keep exploring the wonderful world of music.